How do we design a proposal document that gives us permission to charge 5 figures for a brand identity project? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jack Watson. I'm a brand designer based here in the UK. I've collaborated with some of the biggest brands in the world, and I've built a following of over 300,000 motivated brand designers like yourself. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how we build brand proposal documents inside of Figma for my agency Nonstop. I'm going to show you how to build it step by step, and I'll even show you a real client example that I've recently sent out. Now, before we start, I'd like to mention if you want this template without having to spend the hours building it yourself from the ground up, then you can purchase that in the first link in the description or leave a comment, because I'm going to be picking one person every single video to win my Figma brand identity kit, which is usually worth $499. I'd also like to thank Figma for sponsoring this video. Let's jump into it. Now, we want to have about 18 pages for our proposal, so I'm just going to hold Option and Shift, drag this to the right, and then if I click Command and D, that's going to duplicate it over and over again until we have, let's say, 8 at the top. And then if we drag it down, we can have 8 underneath it as well. And then I'm just going to add an extra 2 there just to make it 18 towards the end. All right, so step 1 is to create a layout guide. Now, if we highlight everything and go down to layout guide and click plus, we can see that we now have a grid. We don't want a grid, we want rows and columns. So if we go to columns first, we can add 8 columns with a 30 margin and a 24 gutter. And then if we click plus again, we can add the rows, and we can change that to 12 rows again with a 30 margin and a 24 gutter. So now if we take a look now, we're going to be pretty much using this grid to design the entire brand proposal document. Now, just before we create the proposal document, I like to create styles. So this is essentially putting in your brand's colors and also your typography selections, just so that everything's linked. And then if we do make any changes in the future, all we need to do is change the styles rather than go in and individually change each page. So to do that, all we need to do is go to styles up here, click plus, and then we can add a color, or we can add a text style. So in this document, I'm just going to be using my brand colors, which is black, white, and orange. So if we head to styles, we can add the color black by just going straight down there, and we can call this Nonstop black. We can add another one, which is white. So if we click color there, click the fill, take it to the top, we can call that Nonstop white. And then finally, we can add the Nonstop orange. So we just click color again. This time I'm just going to paste in the hex values just here, and you can see that's worked again. So we can do Nonstop orange. So the 2 texts that I'm going to be using for this document is going to be Anton for our headings and then Zara for our body copy. So if we click text, we're first going to create a cover title, and we're going to make that Anton, and then we're going to change the font size to 128. And then if you click the 3 dots here, we can also apply settings. So there's never going to be a time where we use Anton that isn't in all capitals. So then we can go down here to case, and we can click uppercase, create style, and then now we have a text style. So now heading to the cover page, we can click cover, head over to fill, and go to libraries, and then now we can click black, which is one of our styles. So if we were to change our style, then all we need to do is go to our color styles here, and you can see that's going to change it every time that the black appears with the style selected. So we'll leave that for now. If I do have a black page, I do tend to change the layout guide to white because it can be a little bit hard to read it. So you just need to go down to your layout guides there and click these buttons. And then if we click text and then head to these 4 dots here, we can click cover title. And now if we type proposal, give me cosmetics, you can see that it's applied those styles. Now the line height's actually a little bit too large here. So rather than changing it manually, we want to change it to all of the text styles. So I'm going to go down here, and then we're going to try 90%, which should be fine. A little bit too big, so we're just going to go 100%, and yep, that looks good. And we'll just drag that down to the bottom. We can also bring in our agency's logo as well. So I'm just going to paste that in place here. And if you want to measure the distance between, let's say, your logo to underneath, if you press Shift and M, you'll see you have these red lines appearing. So if we just drag that up to our logo there, we can see there is a 40 gap right now. And if we click escape and click our logo, knock it down, we can adjust that until it's about 24 pixels. That looks good. And then if you want to remove that, all you need to do is click the little red dot and delete it. Now for an extra touch, I like to add a bit of contrast. So I'm just going to change the client's name in our Nonstop orange. So if we First of all, let's make sure that these are both attached to our colors. So if we highlight all of the white down here, click the white, we can actually link that to one of our styles. Same with this here. And then if we highlight the Give Me Cosmetics, which is the real example that I'm going to be showing you in a second, we can change that to the Nonstop orange. Now for the next page, we're also going to make this black. So I'm just going to change this in our libraries. Press Shift and G to actually reveal the grid. Apologies if I didn't mention that earlier. And then we're going to create another text style. So if we just duplicate this style, change the name, right click and click Edit Style, we can change this to say Heading. And now we're going to knock this down from 128 to 96. So now if we click T on the keyboard, we're going to start writing from about here. And we're going to type About Us, but this is too large. So if we go to Cover Title, we can change this to be our heading. And then I'm also just going to make this in the Nonstop orange. Again, making sure that the white is actually selected to our style, just in case in the future we change anything about the brand. Now in this section down here, I'm just going to click the rectangle. I plan to spread the text along the bottom left, probably about 3 columns wide. And then in the remaining section, we're going to have some images in this section. Now, I don't just want one photo. So what I'm probably going to do here is change it to fit in the grid, maybe create like a little bit of a bento grid. So we'll have like one photo here, one photo there, maybe a photo here that's a little bit larger. And then finally, we're going to have another photo at the top here. Now, before I actually design my pages, I like to create a plan like this. And then now I know that these are going to be photos, I'm actually going to also round the corners by highlighting them, go into corner radius and changing that to be 24. And because we know this is going to be text, all we need to do is click T and we can draw a text box that's going to be here. Now, since this is going to be way too large, I'm just going to type hello here, but we actually don't want this size at all. We need to use our body copy text. So we need to create another text style. And I'm just going to click plus here. I'm going to change this to be our body copy. Click create style. I'm going to change the text size to probably 16. And then we're also going to make it Sora. And then finally, we're going to change it from uppercase to just standard. And then I'm just going to show you how that works. So yeah, you can see here. Now this looks a little bit too small looking at it now. So we're probably going to bump that style up from 16 to maybe 20. That looks good. Now for the About Us section, you want to just write a general overview of your agency, what makes yourself unique and why somebody should work with yourself. So I've pasted my agency text in here. However, there's a few problems that I can see straight away. So let's jump into the typography style. If we just click here, the line height is too close. So we're going to make this just a little bit larger. Maybe 125 looks good. The letter spacing looks good. And then the last thing that we want to do is make sure that the text is coming from the bottom upwards. So to do that, all we need to do is click the text box and we're going to click alignment down here. We're going to change the height of the layout to be auto height. So now if we type anything else, you can see it's just going to keep going up from the bottom. So if we click Shift and G, this is how our page is looking so far. Now, I do think that one more addition would be nice. Since we're about to go through our process, my process contains of 5 stages, plus the About Us section, I think it would be nice to make a progress bar underneath, just to show the user how many pages they're about to see. So I'm just going to create a circle here, probably from this line. We're going to create it 24 to keep it consistent, and we're just going to duplicate that across 5 more times, Command and D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe we'll make it a little bit smaller. So we're actually going to change those to be 12 rather than 24. That looks good. And then we'll also make them a little bit longer actually. So we'll move this one about here. Now, if I select these circles, I can head over to Align, click this square box here, and we can distribute them horizontally. And then to connect the dots, all I'm going to do is draw another line here. We're going to shrink it in half to 6 pixels. And then we're going to create another one at the front, shrink that down, and then we're going to create the first 2. Well, we're going to create the first one being orange to show that this is where we're up to, and then the remaining of them, we're going to make sure the front one's orange, bring that to the front, and now we also have a progress bar as well. I still think this is a little bit too big, so I'm just going to bring that inwards slightly, select the dots, and then I'm just going to remake it again. And also I've decided that the About Us section is probably a little bit too large as well, so we're just going to head into the heading here, click 96, and we're just going to change it to 64, or we're just going to add another 8. Oh, we're just going to add another 8 to it and see what 64 plus 8 looks like. Yeah, we're probably going to go for 72 here. I think that looks good. And then drag that to the top, line that there, and then we'll bring the progress bar underneath it. There we go. So if we want to add our pictures into these boxes, all we need to do is click the gray box, head to fill, go over to image, which is here, and then we can click upload from computer. If you'd like to add a video here, all you need to do is click this video button, and you can also upload that video from the computer as well. Now, if we want to preview what we've done so far, all we need to do is click the first page, go to the play button at the top, and if we click these bars up here, we can see that we can actually fit the width. If we'd like to share it to the client at any point, we can share the live prototype here. So no matter what changes that you make, they'll be able to see the most up-to-date version at all times. Now, the good thing is we can actually use this next page as a base. So I'm just going to highlight everything here. Command C, click cover at the top, Command V, and then if we change the background, we can again make this dark if we'd like. And this time we don't actually need all of these images here. We're just going to add one. So if I turn the grid on again with Shift and G, drag this into the corner, we're going to make this our strategy page. So I'm just going to change this to say strategy. And then we're also going to just change the color of this to be 2 bars out of 6. So we're just going to change these colors here. And now this is going to have a nice visual effect when they play through it. Let me quickly show you. You see, if we go right, it's going to slowly get towards the end. Now, again, for the text, all you need to do is add some information of how you run your strategy sessions. Now, a quick tip with Figma, if you actually feel like you've written too much for your strategy, let's say, and it's going to overwhelm the client, all you need to do is click this button down here, go to shorten, and the AI is actually going to shorten your text and keep it in a pretty concise style as well, which is good. It's probably one of the only AIs that I've used that actually write in a human manner where it just cuts out pretty much all of the rubbish. So as you can see here, it's actually pretty good. Now for the picture, I'm just going to show an overview of my strategy document. So I'm just going to paste a new picture in here. And now I also want to add a button which can show them an example of a strategy. So a good thing with Figma, if you do already have a strategy presentation that you've created for another client, let's say it was built in a document like this, all you need to do is go to share at the top here, click share prototype, copy prototype link, and now you can use this as a link so the client can actually go away and see some real examples as well, which makes the proposal really useful, really interactive, and will definitely help you to sell to the client. So to add the button, all we're going to do is design one here. Okay, so I've just added a button. Now I'm going to show you how to link it. So if we click the text that we've created from the button, all we need to do is go to the text up here, and then we can paste in our URL. And now if we actually click the text, which will be available in the presentation as well, that is going to take us to an example. So now you can see the client can just flick through and have a look at a real strategy that we've created for a real client. All right, so next up, so the next few pages are actually going to look pretty similar. I'll show you what the differences are. We're going to actually take the About Us section here and just duplicate that over. It's probably easier. I'm just going to drag that back down. And the next page is actually going to be showing the visual identity. Now, for the visual identity, I like to include some animations because I've got some motion graphics that are from real brand identities of mine. So what I'm going to do is just adjust this grid by clicking Shift and G and just moving these frames around to fit as I like. And instead of adding the photos, I'm going to go to fill and I'm just going to add some videos in as well. So let me just quickly do that and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so the last thing that we need to do on here is just change this, and I just need to make this orange. Need to make the 2 dots now orange as well. So we're just going to highlight those. And then also this can be orange as well. So there we go, that's looking good. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like when we click play. So if I just click cover here, click play, you can see we've got a full motion identity, which is pretty unique. Now, if I was looking through this as a client, comparing it against other agencies, which most likely is what's happening, they've probably spoke to a few different people. If you're a freelancer, this is going to be what separates you 100%. Now, at my agency, we seem to be quite heavy on illustrations nowadays. So that seems to be what a lot of clients come for, like illustrated brand identities similar to this. So I like to create another section, which is showcasing some of the illustrations that we've done. Again, we'll move this grid around and create something a little bit more unique. Brought in some examples here. So you can see we've got the Ramono example, some open mouth ones, and then some TVG ones as well. The page after this, I'm going to make it dedicated to motion graphics because that's a really quick way to almost double the price of brand identities nowadays. making sure that the copy's got the right typography styles on as well. And now I've actually added a range of motion graphics here, from advertisements to animated brands, just in case the client wants to take on one of the later services as well that we offer, which is, oh, Jesus. Now, what you just saw there was a clash of music from all of the motion. Now, if we want to actually mute these, because we don't want them playing sound that loud, I'm just going to select them both, head over to prototype, and where it says autoplay here on the right, you see we've got the sound button. We're just going to mute those. So now if we go back into it and we click play, you can see it's going to play all of the animations and there's going to be no sound on there, which is what we want. Now, another service that clients ask for often is just brand guidelines. That's been actually one of our most common requests this year. I'm not sure if it's because a lot of my content is based around building brand guidelines, but that's been a huge problem that people have had. They've had e-com brands that have made anywhere between 10 and 40 million a year, and they just have inconsistent brands. So they come to us and we give them a brand new brand guideline. So we've actually completed one of these for Whop, which I'll show you in a second. So again, what we've done is we've copied the structure of the strategy page and we have an example with a link. Now, if somebody sees these, if we're targeting, let's say, tech companies and they're familiar with the brand Whop, that's going to give them instant proof that we're probably the right guys for the job. So if they click that link, you can see it's going to take them straight to an example of the Whop brand guidelines that we created, which is fully built with prototype. So you can actually just click into links, head back to the pages, and you see we have a bunch of rules here, even layout rules. So if we take a quick look at these layout rules, this is the sort of stuff that brands pay us to come and build for them, even if sometimes they don't need a complete rebrand. They might just want the brand fixing and taking from inconsistent branding to something that looks a little bit more cohesive and premium, like Whop did here with us. And then the final page that we're going to be building is ongoing design support. So one problem that you might have is you might be having inconsistent clients, and one way to avoid that is by offering design support upon building a brand identity, charging anywhere between £3,500 per month. That can get you consistent income, predictable income, and then you can start to hire and you can start to be comfortable with business moves that might otherwise be deemed risky. So what I've done here is I've built a grid and I've done some examples of some ongoing support that we did for Whop. So even without them having to come to us for a brand identity, we still created consistent assets, whether that was UI pages, advertisements, and you'll also see on here, there is some motion involved as well. So pretty much you want to get your clients on a retainer basis, show them what's available, and then every now and then you might have a client that just wants everything from motion to guidelines to design support. All right, so now we're moving on to the breakdown, which is really where we can start to show how much value they're getting for the money that they're paying. And I like to call this the Your Investment page, if I can spell investment. So again, we're going to make this last word Nonstop orange. And here we're actually going to create a component. So I'm going to show you how to create a component. What a component allows you to do is have one main asset, which you can then go and change. So if you wanted to swap your logo, let's say, or make it easier to swap the text out, you can do so by just doing it in the top corner. I'm going to show you how to build one of those now. So if we put our grids on, Shift and G, we're first going to design it. So I like to create a top bar with breakdowns. So we're just going to create the pen from the top. Zoom right in here, make sure it clicks into the corner. Click that, and then we're going to zoom in over this side as well. And we're going to keep that stroke width to be 1 for now. And then we're going to add some small text at the top, probably the same size of our body copy. We definitely don't want this. So I think if we go body copy, that should be fine. And these are going to be our page numbers. So we're going to have this, you know what, 8 pixels down probably works well. We might create a new style here just because I think we probably want it a little bit bolder than this. Maybe even smaller as well. So we're just going to click plus. We're going to call this component header. We're going to click create style. And then we're going to go into the settings. We're going to make it semi-bold. And we're going to drop it down to 16. And then we're going to create another one. So I'm just going to drag another line here. Probably 2 across. And we're going to say here, your investment. So we'll click Shift and G. That's going to be the banner that's going to be at the top of each page. We'll just bring it down to be aligned with that. So first of all, we're going to select these two. I'm going to group them with Command and G, and then we're going to click the line above it, click Command and G again. And then at the top here, we are just going to create that component by clicking this button here. Now, if we go to assets, we can actually bring this component created in the file onto the next page as well. So if we turn the grids back on and just pop that in the top, it should lock in nicely. We can actually make this even easier to edit. So all we need to do to make this even easier to edit is click into this box, head to the top here, click apply variable or property. We're going to click plus, we're going to make it property, and then we're going to call this the section. And then we're going to click create property. And then if we go to the front, we're just going to click into this box, click this button here, click the plus, and we're going to call this number, create. Now, if we head over to our next one, which we've duplicated over, you'll see we can change them at the top. So for the section, we can type in breakdown if we wanted, and that's going to change it there. And for the number, we can make this 1.2. So now we can again just take this into our next pages, line them up, do the same there. But the beauty is that if we decide to change it on one, let's say we want to go over here, then it's going to move them all up. So the first one we're going to call summary. The second one, we're going to say your investment. And then the third one, we are going to keep that as breakdown. If I can spell breakdown, and we'll keep that as 1.3. And if you want to paste that across, all we need to do is Command C, click cover at the top, and that's going to paste in place for the remaining of the pages. Now we're also going to have a timeline for the last page, so we're going to change that one to 1.4, and we're going to change that to say timeline. So for the first page after your investment, I like to give them a summary of the least it could cost all the way to the most it could possibly cost. So what we're going to do here is just bring in our title again. This time we're going to change the colors and make it black. And we're just going to drop it down one as well since we've brought in the new header here. And now to the right, we're just going to add a text box. Probably about here should be fine. And we're going to write something along the lines of professional fees for this engagement are estimated to start from £32,000, depending on the final scope and level of rollout. And then we've got some more information here talking about what they're about to read. Right, so the next page, we're actually going to experiment with some auto layouts. The reason I do this is because you might be adding or taking away things from your proposal, and we want to make it as efficient as possible to send these out quickly. Because at the end of the day, if you take in 1 or 2 calls a day, you don't want to be spending this long creating a document. You want to create one template like this, and then you want to have a template that's really easy to edit so you can speed roll out proposals, and that way whoever you're dealing with is going to realize that you are very serious about your role and that you are also extremely reliable. So before we create the auto layout, we actually like to design it first. So I'm going to click Shift and G again to bring up the grids. We're going to copy this title across. We're probably going to make it a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to create another style here and call it small heading. I'm going to reduce this from 72 down to 64, probably maybe 48. We'll keep it at 48 for now. We're going to add a line at the top here, so we just zoom right in, click this, zoom over to the other side, and add that there. We don't want it to be this black, so we're just going to make it 25% opacity. And then we're going to start adding our breakdowns. So the first thing that I like to add is brand strategy. This font's too big, so we're going to go to our type styles and we're going to click the body copy. The body copy could also do with a little bit of reduced tracking. So we're just going to go to the letter space in there and make it -2. That looks good. And then keep that in the top left. I'm going to duplicate this down about 12 underneath. So if we hold Option, we can see if that's 12 down, which it is. And again, we're going to make this gray. So we're going to reduce this down to 25. Let's have a look how that looks. Probably a little bit more than that. Let's keep it at 50 for now. And the brand strategy includes a discovery workshop. And it also includes the brand strategy document. Oop, I've spelled wrong again. Now this might be a little bit too big, so I'm just going to go into our body copy. And I'm going to change it to be... I'm actually going to create a new style here. I'm going to call it small copy. You probably want to go through afterwards and then rename these to be like paragraph 1, paragraph 2, but for now we're just going to use these names. Change this from 20 down to 16. And then the line height, yeah, I mean, probably change the line height as well to maybe 140%. There we go. And then we'll just make sure it's aligned to the top corner, which it is. And then it's got to be, we'll go for 12 down, which is half of 24 to keep it consistent. Now, in line with this, first of all, we're just going to rename this to be brand identity. And then we also want to add a price for each section. So I'm just going to drag this over to about here. And we're just going to put a price next to each service. So we've got 5,000 here for the brand strategy. That's good. And then what we'll do here to start to create the auto layout, we're just going to drag this to the end, drag this to the end as well. And then we're just going to line this up here. Then if we select these two, we can group these with Command G. Then if we click Shift and A, these are going to be an auto layout going down. And then we can select these two, we can group these, and then auto layout these. Now we're also going to put this in an auto layout by clicking Shift and A, and then we're going to align it to the top left. But you'll see if we add more lines, it's going to start to move down. So to fix that, all you need to do is click your 5,000 here, go to Hug, and you want to change that to Fill. And that's going to stick to the top left. So now if we can delete that down here. So now when we click into that and we delete it, it's always going to stay in the top left. So the next thing that we want to do is add another one. So what we'll do is just duplicate that down. We'll give it 24 gap in between, and then we can grab them two, group them together, and auto layout them as well. So now if we just grab that, Control C, Control V, that's going to keep pasting them down. And we can change these, adjusting these with more features if necessary. And if we click Shift and G, it's going to push everything down. So let's quickly fill this out then. We've got brand strategy to start, and then next up we have visual research, and I'm going to say and analysis as well. Within that we do an extended visual research, and then we also provide a competitor and benchmark. After that we personally create 6 brand worlds or creative visions. So we're just going to call that 6 creative visions. This is essentially where we go away and create what we believe would look good for the brand. 6 different quite rushed brands, but nonetheless we still create 6 different brands. The client tells us which one's their favorite, and then we go on to develop that even further. So we're just going to put brand world explorations times 6. For the visual research, sorry, we're going to change that to be 3,000, and then for the 6 creative visions, we're going to change that to be 6. Now if you wanted, you could also call that creative direction, where you determine the brand positioning, and then you could say you also have initial explorations on there as well. In our case, we have 6 explorations. After that, we have the first place exploration. We also develop it as well. So that includes the logo suite, the color palette, the typography selections, and also social and digital applications. And then finally, we like to wrap that up with a brand guidelines, which is the logo, color, and type rules. We have the layout guidelines and also the packaging rules, and then we'll just change the pricing here as well. And then you can see if you'd like to drop anything from your workflow, let's say you want to shuffle these around, then you can do so. If you delete them, then it's going to reposition them. So that's the beauty of auto layout. Let's put that back to where it was. All right, so rather than go through and show you me building it out line by line, I thought I'd just show you what we've ended up with. So we've got the packaging here, which is packaging design, unit packaging, and point of purchase display. We have the brand strategy. So the only thing that we've added extra to your investment was the packaging, but this is just like a general overview. The next page is where we then break down each one of these bold lines at the top. So you can see with brand strategy, we've gone from just the discovery workshop and the brand strategy, breaking it down to really what is actually included for that £5,000. So we've got the overview, user profile, business goals, brand story and research overview, user experience and touch points, and a summary. And you'll see we've used the exact same auto layout here throughout. So all you need to do is just copy that over, and then it's going to be ready to use. We've broken down the visual research and analysis. Feel free to pause this and copy them down if you like. Again, with the brand world explorations, with the creative visions. And then finally, we have the packaging, and then also some add-ons as well if necessary. So I've put to be confirmed there. This is actually a real brand proposal that's going out as well. So you can see we've also offered potential for illustrations, motion identity, and ongoing support. So now all we need to do is create the timeline and then the goodbye page. So for the timeline, I'm just going to make the page black, change our component at the top to be white, and then using some basic lines on the grid, I'm just going to create a timeline. All right, so here we have it. This is the timeline that we've come up with, pretty much showing the client visually how the client process is going to unfold. So you can see we've got onboarding, which goes from December into brand strategy, into visual research, into brand world exploration, first place exploration, development, packaging, and ongoing design support, pretty much showing for the rest of time. This is really easy to make. Again, I've confused it there with the auto layouts, but it doesn't really need it. If we just ungroup it here, you can see we just have lines here to make these a little bit longer where necessary. But the main thing is that the client can just take a look and at a glance understand how long it's going to take. So then finally, we want to add another cover photo just to say thank you, and we'll also add a link for them to pay the deposit. So to do that, we'll just put thank you, and we'll drag them both down to the bottom, and then we'll take our button that we created before up here, and we'll just paste it into the bottom right. And now what I like to do here is have a link that takes people to my Stripe to pay the 50%. Okay, boys and girls, you made it to the very end of the video. Thank you very much for watching this proposal document template tutorial. But before we go, I want to show you today's sponsor, Figma. Now, there is no point having a professional proposal document where you're trying to charge 5 figures if you do not have a professional website. So I'd like to show you exactly where we build our websites, and that is using Figma. Our agency's website, nonstopbrandingagency.com, that has been built on Figma, and it's because there are so many free and paid templates, no code, for you to walk away today with a professional website. Now, you can go away and host this for free. However, if you would like your own custom domain, then you will need a paid subscription. But if you use the code JackW, that is going to get you a free discount. Now, if we also skip ahead to the brand guidelines stage, we've also created a brand guidelines template. So in the link in the description, you'll also find this interactive brand guidelines template. You can see we've got rid of the PDFs and we have made an interactive brand guidelines template, which is shareable. It's going to be constantly updated with whatever changes you make for the client. And yeah, it's just beautiful. It's interactive, so you can copy the hex codes. You can go over to the typography page and check out the usage. You can go to the logos and actually download the files. It's awesome. So again, that's built inside of Figma. Thank you to Figma for sponsoring this video. If you want to check them out, first link in the description. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later.